You know, the race for governor is about jobs and who can do the best job of bringing jobs to the state of Wisconsin. The race is basically between three people: Scott Walker, Tom Barrett, and myself, Mark Neumann. When we're going to ask the voters of this state to hire one of us to be the governor for the next 4 years. And I think it's important we lay out resumes of the three of us and talk about them not in a negative way, but in a very positive way. But I think the people have the right to know what our backgrounds are. I will start with myself. I've spent 33 of my 37 years in my working life in the private sector. I started as a math teacher. We then started businesses in the basement of our home, and we've literally lived the American dream as these businesses have grown to provide many jobs here in southeastern Wisconsin. We currently have 6 small businesses, and we provide approximately 300 job opportunities here in Wisconsin. That's the resume that I would bring to it. I did have 4 years of service in the United States House of Representatives. That was 12 years ago. While I was there, we balanced the budget for the only time in American history since 1969. We passed the biggest tax cut in American history, and the outcome was what we had hoped for. We had a theory that if we could control government spending and then pass a tax cut, that what would happen when people kept more of their own money is that they would either spend it, which would create jobs, or they would save it, where it would then become capital for our businesses to grow and expand and again create jobs. The theory worked. We did get the budget balanced. We passed the biggest tax cut in American history. And at the end of the day, when I left Congress 12 years ago, there were tens of thousands of jobs being created every month. That's the resume I bring to the table, and that's the resume that I ask the voters of the state to take a good, hard look at. Plenty more information at our website. The 2 candidates I'm running against, Tom Barrett and Scott Walker, and again, I mean this in a very positive sense to define where they are. They currently are the 2 highest political figures in the Milwaukee metropolitan area. One is the mayor, of course, that's Tom Barrett, and the other is the county exec, and of course that's Scott Walker. They both spent their lives, virtually their entire working careers, in politics. There's nothing wrong with that, but that is who they are, and that's the records I'm running against. So we basically have a private sector business person running against 2 people who have spent their lives in politics, both from the Milwaukee area, representing the Milwaukee area. I think that's important for people to recognize, but I think what's even more important is the difference that that brings to the table in terms of what that background means in terms of formulating policy. When I look at the Milwaukee metropolitan area and I see what's going on there in terms of job loss, I would approach that problem in a different way than what a political person would. I would approach it with a business sense. In my home building businesses, if my competition was taking our business away from us, in the case of Milwaukee, losing jobs to other areas, they're suffering in the economy like everywhere in our nation, but they're actually suffering worse than other places around the country, virtually anywhere else in the country in terms of job loss. What I would do if I were in business is I would first define the problem. I would first recognize the fact that we are in Milwaukee metropolitan area losing jobs faster than virtually anywhere else in America. I would recognize that the studies are telling us that we're 96 out of 100 in terms of small business desirability and climate for small business in Milwaukee. I would recognize and define the problem. As a business person, I would then lay out a vision for where we want to go to solve that problem. In the case of our Milwaukee metropolitan area, or in the case of the state of Wisconsin as a whole, I would set a vision that we have the best business climate in the world, whether it be the Milwaukee metropolitan area or the state of Wisconsin, where businesses want to come and bring their jobs. So we would set our sights on making this the best business climate in the entire world. We would then also set our sights on having the best job growth record of any metropolitan area in the country, or any state in the country if it be in the governor's chair. The question is, how do you then achieve that vision? Well, in politics, it kind of gets all jumbled up. In the business sector, what I would do is I would go to the 5 best performing metropolitan areas in the United States of America, and I would figure out what it is that they're doing that we're not doing in Milwaukee. I would then lay out a set of criteria that would get Milwaukee to not meet their standards, but to exceed them, adopting the policy that anything they can do, we can do better. So I would lay out these criteria, these very specific things that we want to change in Milwaukee to make Milwaukee more competitive and to be the most competitive metropolitan area in the country. The second thing I would do is I would take apart that study. The study tells us that we're 96 out of 100 in terms of worst business climates in the country for small business. I'd take that thing apart piece by piece, and I'd look at what they're looking at that leads them to the conclusion that we are not friendly to small business. I would then put that in the mix after looking at the other cities that I've mentioned earlier, and I would develop a very specific list of things that we're going to get done. I would then develop a timetable to get them done in, and a strategy to accomplish the goal. So I would define the problem, I would set the vision to solve the problem, I would then compare to other cities that are doing much better to see what it is that we need to do different. I would take the business reports apart to figure out what it is that they're saying that makes us the worst place in America or one of the worst places to do business. I would then develop a plan that makes it so those things go away and we not only match our competition but exceed our competition, adopting that theory that anything those other cities that are doing better than us, we can do it better here in the state of Wisconsin. So identify the problem, state your vision, develop a set of criteria to accomplish your vision, develop a strategy to get there, and then, very important, attach a timetable to it. One other thing. As a business person, I recognize very clearly that even if I get these problems solved and resolved, that Milwaukee becomes the most competitive metropolitan area in the country and in the world, even if we get them resolved, if nobody knows about it, it doesn't matter. So another thing that I would do is I would look at my economic development group and I would empower them with the resources necessary to advertise and market what we're doing. And I don't want our taxpayers afraid. I would set the criteria that for every dollar that was spent marketing the Milwaukee metropolitan area, or as governor, the entire state of Wisconsin, we want to see at least a $10 return to the taxpayers. That is, they bring in $10 in additional revenue via the new businesses and the new jobs that are located here for every dollar that we spend on marketing. So again, a business approach to this thing, identify the problem, set the vision, figure out how to achieve that vision, what the criteria is, develop a strategy and a timetable, and then market the living daylights out of it so that everybody in this country and everybody in the world knows that the Milwaukee metropolitan area in the state of Wisconsin is the very best place to do business.